Hi guys, my name is Maria DeFelice, and today I'm just going to be walking you through sort of how I do my portraits in ProCreate. I've only been using ProCreate for a couple of months, so I don't know everything there is to know, but I am learning a lot, and there's so much you can do in there, and it's been really exciting for me. So this is not a time lapse per se, but it is kind of a step-by-step on how I personally do things up until this point, and I plan on learning a whole lot more as I go. So let's get started. All right, to insert a photo, you're going to hit the monkey wrench, insert photo, and select the photo that you want. Today we have my beautiful sister Corey that we'll be drawing. You're going to tap on the layer with 2 fingers, and then you can slide your finger left and right to increase or decrease the opacity. So I'm going to sketch on top of this, so I want it to be semi-transparent so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to use the 6B pencil, create a new layer, and sketch her basic outline. You don't have to do a lot of detail at this point. Once you have the basic outline, you can actually shrink the photo, move it to the side, go back to your layers, 2 fingers, click on it, and increase the opacity so you can see what you're working with. And then you can go in and add a lot more detail. So here you can see I added a lot of detail, again, with that 6B pencil in a black or a dark gray color. And I did a lot of cross-hatching and hatching just to give some value and some of the shading in the areas. At this point, I was pretty happy with the sketching portion of this piece. So we don't really need that photograph anymore. You can always refer to it, but I'm going to hide it by unchecking that little box on the right-hand side of that layer. Now it's hidden from our view, but if we need it, we can pop it back up at any time. Now I wanted to focus on the background. I knew I wanted it to look like something that you could make at home, so I simply went to the internet, looked up cardboard, saved that image, and inserted it as my background. I loved the texture and that it really just looked like a piece of cardboard. I think it'll really work great to make this piece look like a mixed media piece. So here's the sketch on top of the cardboard background. Now we're going to focus on the hair. So I created a new layer under the pencil layer and filled in with a light wash using the old beach brush. I like the transparency and kind of loose look it has. Next, I created another layer and added some pink highlights with the 6B pencil again in a larger size. I wanted it in a separate layer so that if I wanted to make changes to either of those, it wouldn't interfere with the other. I created another layer in between the highlight layer and the base hair color layer and just added some shadows in a gray color. I used a soft brush to add another layer and add some rust-colored highlights to the bridge of her nose and forehead. Now I wanted to add some analog elements to this piece, so we used some watercolor on her cheek. Basically, I used a scanned image of a watercolor daub and used an app called Magic Eraser to remove the white background. I could then place it in and adjust the opacity and get the effect that I was looking for. There are several apps you can use for that, but the Magic Eraser app is free and it's very easy to use. Next, on a new layer, I filled in the green of her tank top and I used the brush under sketching called Oil Pastel. It's really fun to play around with different brushes, especially if you're trying to go for that mixed media look. I like to play around with a lot of them. For the hair highlights, which I love, I generally use the brush under the inking section called Syrup. And it has just a really great touch to it. It has a slight lag, so it gives you these really smooth lines. And I generally use that for all of the little wispy hairs in my portraits. And you guessed it, new layer. Using Old Beach brush to fill in the yellow of her shirt. Now we're going to insert another watercolor piece that we have removed the background, turning it into a PNG image. We place it over her face, but I wanted to kind of adjust that opacity to make sure that we see the drawing and the underlying artwork through it. Did the same thing on another layer with a watercolor palm leaf, adjusting the opacity, cleaning up the edges, and then erasing any part that I wanted to be behind her shoulder or behind her hair. Now I'm going to make the butterfly and the palm leaf not visible just temporarily because I'm going to work on the background. I did a large sweeping motion with Old Beach brush in like a rusty yellow color. Again, just erasing what I wanted to be behind her body, behind her hair, etc. It wasn't perfect, but we're going to be adding some more elements, so it's fine. We can pop the palm leaf and butterfly back on there. I thought the background was a little bit plain, so I added some paint splatter in purple and green. And the last step was just some eyeshadow coloring and some coloring in her eyes, as well as my signature in the bottom right. There are a lot of layers in this piece, and I do that to kind of protect other layers as I work. If I want to make changes, I don't want to have to make changes to all the layers at once. That is the final piece. I hope that you like it, and I hope that you learned a little something. Comment with questions, and I hope to make more of these videos soon.